How's it going, everyone? College Lefty, and in this video I rank the top 10 players at each position in MLB The Show 22, so let's go ahead and get right into it. A few things to keep in mind: there will be some duplicates at various positions, and I'm also ranking these players based off of mainly All-Star or Hall of Fame difficulty, playing at a max elevation stadium at night. So with that said, right, there are other factors. You might have some of these players ranked in different spots. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below, but let's go ahead and get right into the rankings. Coming in at number 10 for starting pitchers, we have Chris Sale, and you might have this card ranked a little bit higher depending on if you play your games in the daytime. Maybe the batter's eye isn't the greatest, and he will be a lot more deceptive. He might be more effective than some of these players that I have ranked a little bit higher. At number 7, we have Pedro Martinez. I still think that card is pretty good. I wish he had more of a deceptive motion. Ranked a little bit higher, Johnny Cueto. Brand new, Bob Gibson at number 5. I think that card has a chance to be even higher on the list. Corey Kluber at number 4. Depending on whether or not you can control Nolan Ryan, you might flip Nolan Ryan and Bob Gibson. I happen to like Nolan Ryan's circle changeup. I think it's a very effective pitch. I also think Tom Glavine and Randy Johnson are a little bit better. I still think Randy Johnson is the best starting pitcher in the entire game. But as we get into some closing pitchers, here we have Zach Britton at number 10. We also have Jorge Lopez at number 9. You could toss in Chad Green. You could toss in maybe Yohan Duran as well. We have Blake Trinan on the list. We have Dennis Eckersley on the list. Haven't got a chance to try out some of these cards, but based off of previous years, based off of their deceptive motion, I think a combination of some of these finesse closing pitchers and velocity closing pitchers, right? Some of these guys have outliers. Some of them have splitters rather than changeups, or maybe they don't have the greatest changeup but a better sinker. We could also throw in Devin Williams somewhere at the bottom of this list. That card is still really good, but to me the best pitcher, or at least closing pitcher in the game, is Aroldis Chapman, and I don't even have him. Now we get into the top 10 catchers. At number 10, Giovanni Soto. At number 9, Francisco Alvarez. I might use some of these guys, but I already have some of the better catchers in the game. At number 8, we have Craig Biggio. At number 7, I still think this cover athlete Joe Mauer card is really good. At number 6, we have Pudge Rodriguez. Definitely one of the faster catchers on the list. At number 5, Mike Napoli. This card is still really effective, even though we got a couple of brand new catchers that I think are a little better. Joe Torre at number 4, Jorge Posada at number 3. Both of those cards are really good. Torre has more contact, but Jorge Posada is a switch hitter. I think Joe Mauer at number 2 speaks for himself. And then at number 1, of course, Jimmy Fox in his secondary position. Then we get into some first basemen. And you might disagree with my first baseman list. I have a couple people on here you might play in different positions, but I'm definitely trying to get some of these guys somewhere on my team, out there on the field. As we get into the top 5, I think you'll understand a little bit more of what I'm talking about. At number 6, we do have Honus Wagner. He is a utility player in my eyes. He does have a lot of value. And at number 5, we have Jackie Robinson. So some first basemen on here without, the most power, but I still think they're very usable, very effective, especially with maxed out elevation on All-Star, on Hall of Fame. And yeah, we also have another outfielder in Willie Mays at first base. Some guys with good speed, some guys with really good contact. Signature Series Babe Ruth, to me, is by far the best first baseman. And Lou Gehrig, I would say he's right up there at a, close to, but not as close as it could be. As we get into second baseman here, you might disagree with a couple of these second basemen as well. Eduardo Escobar, to me, is more of a second baseman / shortstop. You might play him at third, first, maybe in the outfield. I think he has a lot of value as a switch hitter with the dead red quirk, but I think you get the most value out of him maybe at second base or shortstop. As we get into the top 5, we have Jackie Robinson, Honus Wagner, Mookie Betts. I probably had ranked a little bit too low on the previous list. He's definitely one of the better second basemen because of the active live series quirks as well. I still think Corey Seager might be slightly ahead of him being a lefty. And then, of course, Hank Aaron at number 1, hands down the best second baseman in the game. As we get into some shortstops here, I haven't tried out Carlos Correa or Bo Bichette, but I wanted to include them at the bottom of the list. I still think Ketel Marte is very usable, and I would prefer him over Bo Bichette or Carlos Correa, but those two cards are also very good. I might use Eduardo Escobar or Francisco Lindor over Ketel Marte just because they're fairly new, and I've had Ketel Marte on my squad for most of the entire year. As we get into the top 5 with Honus Wagner, Corey Seager, as well as Barry Larkin, I think this card and his short, compact, quick two-handed swing is very effective there. Chipper Jones has to be at the top of the list for shortstops. You could put him in the outfield. You could put him at third base. Jimmy Rollins is number 1, though. He only plays shortstop, so he has to be, in that specific position, has to be number 1. As we get into third baseman here, you might disagree with a couple of these picks as well. I think there are a ton of options to play at third base. Third base was my weakest position in the last video. There are a plethora of options that you can go ahead and use. Personally, I'm trying to get a good amount of power, a decent reaction attribute just for that hot corner. But you can't ever go wrong with the maxed out hitter as well, like Jimmy Fox, maybe Hank Aaron, pretty close to maxed out as you can get. We also have Chipper Jones at number 2 on this list. And I didn't have George Brett ranked at first base, but you could put him, in the top 3 over there at first. I think he's the number 1 third baseman. And as we get into the outfield, I'm going to include the top 15 outfielders. You could easily flip-flop Bryce Harper and Dawson. That's just personal preference. I think Honus Wagner is slightly better than both of those guys. I wish that Harper card had the active live series quirks. He'd probably be ranked a little bit higher. Lou Gehrig at number 12 might be an interesting pick. I would try and find a way to use that card. Maybe he's more of a bench bat if you have Signature Series Babe Ruth, but I might try to fit him out there in the outfield. That's probably as low as I would go in terms of defense and speed. Everybody else on this list, maybe other than, Juan Soto or Signature Series Babe Ruth, some of those guys are slower. They have silver tier defense. They might have speed, in the 60s or the low 70s. Typically, I like to use outfielders with at least 80 speed. But as we get into the top 5, I might be playing some of these other guys at other positions. When we get into the top 3, I think the best outfield you can have right now is Vladimir Guerrero Sr. in right field, Andrew McCutchen in left field, and Ken Griffey Jr. in center field as the number 1 outfielder, overtaking McCutchen for the first time all season. But that's going to do it for this video. That is my top 15, top 10 players at each position. That's going to do it. I'm College Lefty, and hopefully you enjoyed. I plan on picking up some of these cards. As you saw at the beginning of the video, my team does not have a ton of the brand new players, so that's the plan. Until next time, peace out.